Welcome in, everybody. It is Dynasty Mode, the unofficial EA Sports college football game podcast. My name is Arky Shea. That is Demetri Arvanos. Demetri, hello, sir. We've got a big time legalese discussion of the college football video game today.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
I have got a lot of notes here. I'm gonna apologize now for those watching. I'm going to be looking at my screen a lot. I have a bunch of notes up here. I've abbreviated them to the best I can to keep things relevant and also kind of funny because there's some actual hilarity in this when you think about this lawsuit and how we lost the game and how we're getting it back.
So, Arky, let's before we dive in, let's reset from a couple of weeks ago. You talked about that the reason we wanted to talk about this was to explain why not only we lost the game in the first place, but no matter how deep into history we go with the new version of the game, it is probably never again going to be called NCAA.
Yeah, there is a very focused point in this conversation of where the two, let's just say they were done. They washed hands of each other, and it's thanks to the great state of Georgia, by the way.
Wow,
that we could put that into great
national champions.
That's right, sick 'em dogs. Any fan base that barks at people, I'm a fan of ripping off the face of the planet. So
agreed.
Yeah. Okay. So before we get to that, I told you we're also going to continue to get your comments. There's a couple of things from last week's episode I want to just hit up on the podcast. Demetri, if you'll take a look at your screen. If you're watching on the YouTube as well, you can see in your screen too. We optimized, I'm not sure if that's the word. We postulated, we threw out the idea.
Sure.
That we might have ourselves an online dynasty mode.
Right.
When we get the new video game, because you are fresh with the new video game, and I've kind of decided I want to go next generation console.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is just a small smattering of some people who were excited.
Nice.
Jeffrey Dahmer 06, probably the same guy. Says, I'm ready for the online league. Robert Fiskus says, I would be totally down for an online dynasty. Where do I sign up? Will Waters, I would be down. Tomps 07, I'd strongly consider joining the online dynasty.
Oh, Tomps, what do we have to do to turn that strongly consider into a commitment today?
I was about to do a little bit of no. And T. Christian says, love the content, guys. This is easily my most anticipated YouTube show. That is some kind of company, by the way. What are your guys' plans for the show after this game comes out? Question mark. Also says, I, for one, would absolutely love to be part of the Dynasty Mode.
Okay, Arky, I'm so glad this person asked this question because it dawned on me the other day. We probably don't want this game to ever come out so we could keep doing the show, right?
Oh, hell yeah, brother. Hell, we just keep doing modified PC versions is what we do.
There you go.
Also, take a quick moment, deep breath. This is a bit of a longer one, but I did want to highlight it from this here recent commenting, and then we'll move on to the podcast.
Okay.
Deep breath if you're watching.
Good God, okay. I can't even read that.
RF Jones, you can if you're watching at home. First, what do you guys think about getting a coach's AP polls vote for the team that you control in your dynasty or even a college football playoff vote? That's one question. Here's what I think is also interesting, Demetri. We're going to move past that for a moment. Secondly, he wants difficulty levels. I like to play Dynasty Mode offline and online with a few friends, but this game gets too easy after a few seasons. Then you start making house rules to make it harder, which takes away from the game itself. In Madden, the sliders seem like they don't work the way they should. This guy's just a badass at this game, isn't he? Jeez. But RF Jones 25.
My screen to actually read this, so I apologize. I'm not on mic.
So you're that's right. Let's see. I have played games like MLB The Show, 2K Hoops. When they jumping up a level, you can tell a difference right away. This is an area of the game that frustrates me the most, but I don't hear people talking about it much. The new momentum meter in Madden 22 and 23 next gen. I do like it, and would like to see something add to the new college game. It adds to the swing of the game. Like the higher you get on the meter, your side, the more likelihood that something bad happens to the other team. Plus, it seems not overdone. But I want more of a chess match when playing the CPU-controlled teams that factors in the talent on the rosters, the home field advantage, team prestige, weather, etc. Give me more sliders for more customization of the game that, quote, work. Well, he didn't quote it. He capitalized it. So if I feel like the CPU-controlled team should be better at running the ball, I can make that tweak in my Dynasty. I just wanted to know if you guys have the same problems with the game over the years. Also, he says, I know you guys are not into Madden, but you should give the next generation game a try to see what you would do or wouldn't want in the new college games. And finally, he says, P.S. One of you guys should have a new Xbox so you can have a league on both systems. See, he wants a league. He wants in the league too.
Okay.
That's his 2 cents. He says, thanks and great show all the way from Seattle. Go Dogs, parentheses, Washington, that is.
Lovely city. I was there this summer. What's his name? R.F. Jones?
R.F. Jones.
Then I think the RF stands for really fantastic in honor of his city.
Demetri, that is so sweet of you. That is such a sweet thing for you to say.
Well,
first of all, I agree with a lot of the things. I do think at one point it got too easy for the CPU teams. I don't know what else you really do like with it. Like, I really wish there was a way to make it hey, who do you think you are, Nick Saban mode? You know, like where everything is just so difficult.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this: doing my my online Dynasty right now, sort of the one that's on YouTube, at least early on, not easy. Having some difficulties.
So I actually experienced the opposite of this before I unplugged the PS3 and plugged in the PS5. I decided to start over as the offensive coordinator at UMass. And Arky, I opened the proceedings by beating a ranked Ole Miss 56-13.
Oh, shit.
So obviously we had gone very much the other way. Now, I will say
I'll say this. My first game against NC State, I threw 10 interceptions. So it's a little different. We're different sides here.
I'm very interested and maybe even a little bit intrigued to check out the new version of Madden, because what he likes is something that all of us that played all of the college games hated, the momentum meter.
Well, I didn't hate it. Like, you have a very strong hatred for the momentum meter.
Yeah.
I thought it was all right. I thought it's fine.
I mean, I think, like, the idea behind it, I love. It's just, I didn't like the fact that, like, at least on the PS2 version, it was unbreakable. There was no swinging momentum.
Sure. I can sort of get that. All right. That's fair enough. All right, Demetri, let's get into this podcast. This is entitled, How Did We Lose the NCAA Game? And I'll tell you why. Collusion. But that's a short term for this.
Arky, in post, can we add the Law and Order theme here?
Oh.
Bum, bum, ba, da, 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 da.
I think we only get a few seconds of that before we can't make the $0 we're going to make on this video anyway.
Fair.
By the way, any thoughts, questions, ideas you want to comment on the YouTube page as well? Boom, spank it right here on the bank. So here's how this entire thing went down. Now, again, I'm going note to note. I have paper notes. I have online notes. I have all kinds of stuff going. So bear with me, but I got to get you the appropriate things going. Demetri, this all started essentially by name of Sam Keller, actually. Did you know, you know about this Sam Keller fella?
The name is familiar, yes.
Well, Sam Keller, former quarterback at Nebraska and Arizona State, he actually in May 2009 sued the NCAA and EA Sports before Ed O'Bannon did.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk about the Keller case as much as we talk about the O'Bannon case?
Well, here's the big thing. Here's the biggest difference between the two. Sam Keller said, "Give me my money." Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Ed O'Bannon said, "Yeah, but let's also change the structure of the NCAA as we know it."
Gotcha.
So I will talk about that coming up in a minute, but there was a shift in the focus that almost got the case thrown out, to be honest with you. But we're going to talk about that coming up in a minute. So May 2009, Sam Keller files a lawsuit. July 21, 2009, a scant June, 2 months later, Ed O'Bannon gets his lawsuit going.
Have you ever interviewed Ed O'Bannon, by the way?
I have not had the pleasure.
So I've talked to him one time. This would have been in 16, maybe 17. But so we're talking what? 7-8 years since he filed that lawsuit. Mm-hmm. And at that point, at least 6 years. No, I'm sorry, at least 3 years since the game was gone. He, to that day, was still getting hate mail and death threats over it.
Well, I mean, hopefully those lenient a little because, the game's coming back.
Sure.
So hopefully it's not as bad. But, I can see how some people were a little frustrated. But no hatred on Sam Keller's part. No one ever brings up Sam Keller. So anyway, he got his money. We'll talk about that coming up. So interesting note, May 5th, 2011, EA was dismissed from the lawsuit.
Interesting. And so this then became a lawsuit against just the NCAA?
Well, 2 months later, they were reintroduced into the lawsuit.
Okay.
Because the judge at first found that there was no collusion to keep players from getting money and to not use name, image, and likeness. But O'Bannon's attorneys introduced new information, which was the fact that the one thing that so many people ask about even now into 2022, that you could go online and customize your league and you could customize teams. And once that was introduced, the judge was like, well, you're back in, EA. You're back in. So that happened July 2011 when they were reintroduced into that lawsuit. September 2012, this is the moment I wanted to talk to you about. This is when the O'Bannon lawyers changed the lawsuit from being, hey, we would like money back from years of TV money and electronic arts money. At what point, we found out at the end of this, they were asking for like $3 billion worth of back money.
Really?
Yeah. But that didn't actually end up happening. Spoiler alert. But things, I don't know. I shouldn't say spoiler alert. This isn't the most these aren't. Not everyone was into the weeds as this is sort of the research will indicate from my end.
Right.
But O'Bannon and their lawyers think as long as I think they got like 15 other players, including current players, including a couple of players from Arizona State, so on, that they wanted to sort of, instead of just look for former money, they wanted to be able to get future money and to try to get as much as a 50-50 divide in when it comes to TV money and a 67-33 split in favor of the 33 in favor of the players, 67 for the institutions and EA respectively, combined, I should say. So they wanted a third of that money going forward, but they wanted to change the way that student athletes were being able to be perceived as far as getting money from their name, image, and likeness. So September 2012, a very, very interesting time for this lawsuit.
For sure. I mean, I remember at the time, these little ticks. Tell me how you feel, Arky. Like, I don't remember this feeling like the fissures beginning to show in the ice before we fell through and there was no more game. I remember along the way, each thing sort of being, when it was reported, being accompanied with the idea that, like, look, there's a chance this is really bad for the future of this game, but I don't recall panic around any of these things.
I don't remember the panic either, but I mean, I was just a young man into my career and
sure,
and just nary a worry in the world other than when's the next game come out.
Very good.
Like
so
I had not. I don't think it was until the next year that I started to get worried because they stopped the game.
I got to tell you, I wasn't even. I guess maybe this is my own naivete, but I was not even worried that it was gone or going away until we got down that road, until we started hearing that, at best 15 is going to be delayed. 15 maybe a more limited version as they rework what they're going to do. I just bring all this up because it is so interesting to revisit all of this as a 41-year-old, recognizing like, oh, you idiot, you should have seen where this was headed back in 2009 as soon as that lawsuit was filed. Excuse me, but at the time, 2012, so 10 years ago, I was 31. It just didn't seem like it was ever going to go away.
Yeah, well, you know what else didn't seem like it was going to go away? Your ball hair, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Manscaped.com, your presenting sponsor here for this here podcast. Demetri Ravanos has his own testicle hair. So does myself, Arky. Shane, listen, if you want to get rid of that bush and get ready to get some clean shaving going Can we get some of the biddies to bid on that? That's right. I called the biddies a chance to bid on it because there ain't no women watching this. And I don't know why. You guys and gals love this game. It's manscaped.com, and we got a chance for you to save 20% off and get free shipping by using our promo code. I'm not going to put it on the screen yet. I'm not going to put it on the screen. Damn it, it's on the screen. Okay, so there it is. It's Dynasty Mode. All one word, Dynasty Mode is your promo code. 20% off and free shipping. The Performance Package 4.0 by Manscaped is a game changer, Demetri. Game changer. Inside this package, you'll get the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer. That's for your,
your package.
The Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer. Love that thing. That thing got rid of all of my insides. Not in a bad way, in the hair way.
Got all up in them guts, if you will.
That's right. The Crop Preserver. That preserves your crop. Your ball deodorant is what it is. It's ball deodorant for your testicles. So, stop stinking. The Crop Reviver. People love this. The Ball Toner. Do you know there's a ball toner out there?
I did not. Now, is that in terms of skin health, or is that in terms of changing the shade?
It's about reps, not weight down there,
Okay.
So
okay.
It's about how many reps you get on the balls down there with the ball toner.
Gotcha.
The Performance Boxer Briefs you can get. Those things feel slick, and also you get a travel bag to hold all of your goodies. You will be blown away. And by the way, on this Lawnmower 4.0, you got a 4,000K LED spotlight, so you will be precisely able to see everything and things more importantly you want to avoid as well. The Weed Whacker is waterproof. It also provides proprietary skin-safe technology which helps reduce nicks, snags, tugs in those delicate areas you don't want nicked, snagged, or tugged. Unless you get a little something from the missus. You know what I'm saying? Demetri Romanos. You can use right now our promo code Dynasty Mode, all one word, Dynasty Mode, at manscaped.com. 20% off plus free shipping. And I'm telling you, if you don't do it, you are losing out on your life. Live it the best way with Manscaped. Manscaped.com, promo code Dynasty Mode, 20% off and free shipping. Not bad.
Manscaped. Them balls smooth as hell.
Man, I like that. When you throw in like a little bit of a, kind of a cuss word, but it's more like a cuss word of like you're in the 20s, as opposed to a cuss word now.
My goal is to sound like, do you remember the guy that used to do all the commercial reads on CBS Sports? Brought to you by Pennzoil.
Yes, I do. Okay, so let's get back to the lawsuits at hand. September 2012. Demetri, are you ready for some good old-fashioned funny emailing?
I love, if there is anything that the Trump years have brought us, it is the glory of discovery email.
Oh, this is what was so big about this lawsuit, is not that it just changed everything, and it did clearly.
Yeah.
But what it did help to do was to really give us an open book into what the NCAA was doing. And we got a lot of emails we did not expect to get, like this one. This was in 2009, discovered in 2012, from Nebraska Chancellor Harvey Perlman, who wrote to Dan Beebe, who is the Big 12 commissioner at the time, and Texas President Bill Powers, right?
It's weird that a traditional Big 10 school like Nebraska would be emailing the head of the Big 12, but go on.
Yeah. This was right after the O'Bannon lawsuit was filed, and the Chancellor, Harvey Perlman, decided to disagree that the NCAA could sell athletes publicity rights without compensating them. Quote, this is the quote I want. I would love to hear your best Southern voice of this, because this is my favorite email as far as the phrasing of this entire lawsuit.
All right, put it up on the screen.
I don't have it to be able to put it up.
All right, never mind.
But I just want you to mimic it like you're a Mockingjay.
Sure.
This whole area of name and likeness in the NCAA is a disaster leading to a catastrophe, as far as I can tell.
Oh, a disaster leading to a catastrophe, sir.
Oh, it's great. We'll continue. Back in 2007, 2 years before the lawsuit.
Wait, is this part of the email, or are you telling me this now?
I'm not telling you, sorry. This is a different thing. That was just part of that one email that I thought was the
gotcha.
best.
Okay, now we're back to story.
Back to the story. 2007, 2 years before this lawsuit was actually placed. There was an email exchange between an executive for CLC, which is the collegiate licensing company.
Had played a much bigger role in the next game to get everybody involved.
Right. They wrote that EA Sports was using real players' names to develop a basketball video game before stripping of the names. So here's that email.
Okay, interesting. I remember this coming out.
From Wendy Harmon, who was in charge of CLC non-apparel marketing, said, quote, just a heads up in case schools ask you this, all of EA's latest 2008 March Madness basketball submissions have current players' names on the jerseys. I have called my representative at EA about this, and she tells me that they will not be using those in the final version. She said, but they have to put the player names on it so it will calculate the correct stats, but then they take them off.
So that is about as damning as it gets, right? That we are using real players. Now, I don't remember that part of it, but I do remember when this came out that they were using real players in development, and even that alone raises a red flag, or at least should raise a red flag for whether it's Keller, whether it's O'Bannon, whether it's anybody, because like it gets to everything you and I have been talking about for years. We've been doing this podcast for decades at this point. Everything you and I have been talking about since we started the podcast, it gets to everything that all of us knew was going on with EA for years. And this was the confirmation, right? Just because we don't use the name AJ McCarron does not mean Alabama QB 10 is not AJ McCarron.
How about this, Mr. AJ McCarron denier?
Oh, no, I'm an AJ McCarron truther.
Okay. Months earlier, email suggested the NCAA actually was in favor of giving players names from the rosters in terms of possibly compensating them. A CLC executive noted that a senior NCAA executive had helped EA Sports make a presentation before the NCAA president, Miles Brand, at the time. The executive for CLC, remember the licensing company, the sort of the middleman between EA and NCAA, quote, the NCAA now, parentheses, finally, hilarious. The NCAA now, finally, sees EA as an important tool to allow them to reach young people with the values associated with intercollegiate athletics. 2007!
I got to tell you,
we're not dumb.
It is.
Hold on, let me finish this. Okay, I got two more lines. As a result of all of this, I've gotten in front of Tom and Miles Brand, and now they are now viewing what we do on their behalf as mission critical. It has been pretty cool to watch, end quote.
I mean, this is exactly what you and I are talking about. It's so funny. 15 years after that email was sent, we still have college football coaches that don't get that this is as important as there is a marketing tool, not for your school, not for your team, for college sports. I do not get how this thing was like so overlooked by people in power for so long.
Yeah, again, you're right. 2007 is when that email was sent. Still on that note, Battle, the CLC person, says that it would probably take 12 to 18 months for the NCAA to approve legislation allowing names on jerseys and video games. Now, the legislation wasn't passed, but email suggests that the NCAA seemed like it was sure that it was going to be done. Quote, Greg is now confident that we will get this done, Battle wrote. That will be a huge win for us and EA, end quote.
This is Bill Battle, who went on to become the Alabama athletic director.
No, this is Pat Battle.
So this must be a relation because CLC was Bill Battle's thing.
Yeah, Bill Battle, former athletic director, like as you said, Alabama. He created CLC essentially. Yep. All right, so we could have had this a long time ago and not had to have a 10-year hiatus, but here we go. November 2012. Yeah, okay, that's right. It felt like I said 2012 30 times. A July 2003 email, okay? 2003.
Arky. This looks so bad for the people in charge, but please do go on.
NCAA Director of Corporate Alliances, Peter Davis, who we clearly know.
I would assume he is the one responsible for things like Enterprise Rent-A-Car and Reese's Peanut Butter Cup commercials over and over again during the basketball tournament.
That's the one. Yeah.
I would assume he's in charge of not sponsors, but corporate champions.
That's right. Corporate champions. That's right. Some of us, go on to turn pro anyway, whatever.
That's right. Think of the NCAA as a spirit squad.
He wrote in an email about whether or not EA Sports uses current football players' names. He wrote back, quote, "We don't actually use player names, but we do use all the attributes and jersey numbers of the players."
Oh no, you don't write that down. That's a phone call. That's a phone call.
2003, Mr. Ravanos.
Arky, how are people this dumb?
What year did email come out? Like, that has to be like the first year of email, I guess.
I would say that's a good decade into email at that point.
Okay.
Might be one of the first email addresses not at AOL.com.
You know what? You're right. You're actually right. Davis' email went on to say, to raise the point, and this is the example he used, if Ole Miss quarterback Eli Manning got injured, the video game roster would reflect that change. Davis expressed concern whether using Manning's number and attributes would be too close to his likeness to cause an eligibility issue. It was rebuffed.
To cause an eligibility issue, not should we owe him money, but to cause an eligibility. God damn.
Okay. March 2013.
Oh, now we're going forward.
Yeah, we are going forward. Big Ten Commissioner Jim Delaney testifies, and he says that if this were to happen, where...
Oh, man, I love Big Ten logic. I can't wait.
They change the Ed O'Bannon ruling to where it turns out that they can start paying players and giving them money. Oh, this is so great. The Big Ten schools might, quote, de-emphasize sports, end quote, and, quote, consider a Division III model with no scholarships if players got paid.
That is, Arky, I have been hearing for years clamoring from fans at Penn State and Michigan and Ohio State that they would prefer honor rather than good teams.
Oh, and you know what? They almost got it.
Man, so 2013. So that threat has been hanging out there from the shittiest don't know how to adapt people in college sports for almost a decade now.
Demetri, he didn't write this in an email. He testified.
Testified.
In this case.
Somewhere. No, 2013. Yeah. So somewhere, then sitting Clemson head coach Dabo Swinney was taking notes and applauding.
Wish he was the commissioner of the ACC. I'll tell you that.
That's right. Man's got his priorities in order. I don't know why Dabo was a combination of Jimbo Fisher and
I felt it.
It's Steve Spurrier. Just
May 2013, a couple months later, Jeremy Strausser, who worked at EA from 95 until 2011, testified the computer game avatars were linked to specific player identifying numbers and biographical information such as depth charts to make the game more realistic. Quote, we generally tried to make the players perform as their real life counterparts, short of their name and likeness, Strausser testified.
It is exactly that thing that I talked about with my buddy Matt, who was on the depth chart at Alabama for a while. These guys knew that it was supposed to be them.
Demetri, it keeps getting worse. Okay. June 2013, 1 month later, O'Bannon lawyers alleged that the NCAA was, quote, incentivized to look the other way when Electronic Arts created a way for consumers to add players' names.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. So I didn't realize there was an accusation that, somehow the NCAA got something by not doing anything here.
Well, here's what's awesome. Former NCAA President Miles Brand was quoted as saying in an email, we can take care of the legal issues through an expanded waiver.
To who? Oh, to making the players sign the expanded waiver.
Yes.
Wow.
So whatever legal issues could be there, don't worry. We've got more papers.
Man, I mean, is that not the most NCAA answer ever?
It's pretty fucking rad, right? It's what you call on brand.
Right.
Oh, get it? See Miles Brand? See what he did there?
Oh, look at you.
Remember when Miles Brand's big thing was like, hey, man, he hired Saban at LSU.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Okay, so July 2013, the NCAA decides they will not renew their license with EA.
Okay.
Yeah. So that means as of the next game, that will be their last one that they have.
Yep.
In November 2013, the NCAA sues Electronic Arts and CLC.
And CLC?
Yep.
Wow. Can I go before we go on? This is the moment where
this is where they start hating each other.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, like, is there a wrestling analogy here? Because to this point, all of this discovery, like, EA looks no better than the NCAA up to this point.
Yeah. From what I've told you, there are smaller instances where the NCAA or EA has reached out to say, "Hey, look, we'd like to pay these players," and the NCAA says, "We got this expanded waiver. Don't worry about it. We're going to be okay." But still, that the Electronic Arts still had their issues with. All right, we're trying to make them as real as possible. You know, like we're trying to do the thing. Here's the lawsuit, which happens in the state of Georgia, where EA and CLC I mentioned I skipped a date. September 2013, EA and CLC settled the video game lawsuit with Ed O'Bannon,
right,
and with Sam Keller,
right.
Okay. November, the NCAA tries to halt that settlement.
Do you have figures in front of you for those?
I do.
Settlements?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I'll get to that if you would like it. If you would not, I'll just skip it.
I would like it.
The Electronic Arts and CLC settled the video game lawsuit with Sam Keller and the Ed O'Bannon case. So they are trying to wipe their hands. That would leave the NCAA as the lone defendant in the lawsuit if that happens.
Okay.
So the NCAA tries to halt that settlement by suing Electronic Arts and CLC. Remember, CLC just the licensing group. They're the in between. They go to a Georgia court to sue, and they say that, quote, EA did not maintain sufficient liability insurance to cover pending third-party claims, i.e. these lawsuits that are coming up. CLC responded by saying, we're just caught in the middle of the dispute between NCAA and EA, which should not involve us, quote, which is pretty great.
Yeah. It's a strategy.
It is a strategy. But essentially, the NCAA says claims that any alleged use of a former athlete's name, image, or likeness that cannot be sanctioned by the NCAA because, quote, the NCAA does not have the claim to have any rights to license such names or likeness.
Huh. Okay. So
they say we couldn't even do it if we tried.
Yeah.
So your things with EA, not us.
Right.
Nice. Okay. So in August of 2013, the Big Ten, the Pac-12.
So wait, do we have the settlement amounts for Keller and O'Bannon?
Sorry. That number is reported to be around $40 million.
For each or combined?
Combined.
Okay.
The month prior, Big Ten, the Pac-12, and the SEC, they decide they're not going to renew their license with the EA either.
Right. I remember that.
So July, the NCAA says we won't do it. In August, they don't do those conferences do not do it.
I would love to know, and maybe this is a future episode that we have to do. We probably have to do some reporting to get a good idea. I don't think anyone is just going to tell us. I'd love to know for a month what EA's lawyers, like what their work days looked like, trying to keep the conferences involved.
All right, so that gets us to now June of 2014. The NCAA, they settled the Sam Keller case on their end. So EA had already settled. Now the NCAA settles. That's for about $20 million.
Okay, so they didn't get to $3 billion then.
They did not begin, but that's the Sam Keller case. O'Bannon was wanting the $3 billion.
Oh, so O'Bannon got $3 billion.
Well, that's what they were wanting. They never got $3 billion.
Oh, nuts! Okay, I thought they got close.
Oh, nuts! That's right. In August of 2014, a couple of months later, the federal judge does rule that the NCAA violated antitrust laws in the Ed O'Bannon case. That's when the ruling comes down.
In
2014. Trust me, it's all going to clarify very quickly.
Yeah. So for 7 years before the Supreme Court case, We already have the antitrust, violating antitrust tied to the NCAA.
Correct. Because what happens with the Supreme Court is a different case.
Right.
And that blows the floodgates wide open. All right. So this settles the groundwork for the NCAA. So that's August 2014.
I just want to point this out.
Sure.
We are 35 minutes into this episode. We have not even gotten to the meat yet.
We've not gotten to the what?
To the meat yet of specifically what the standoff is between EA and the NCAA.
Oh no, we got to it. The NCAA was sued the NCAA sued Electronic Arts after they tried to settle the case.
Oh, okay. I wasn't paying attention.
So sorry. Yeah. So Electronic Arts tried to settle and did settle.
Yeah.
For $40 million.
So I got to tell you.
And NCAA says, no, you're our partner. We can't license this anyway. You're not allowed to settle and leave us as the lone person here.
Right.
And EA essentially starts from there. They're beefing with, all right, well, you suck and we'll never deal with you again.
So I was expecting this to be someone within the NCAA in a deposition said something about EA. Like, I didn't realize it was going to be as cut and dry as EA tried to settle a lawsuit, or EA basically tried to jump off the sinking ship that was this lawsuit.
Well, there were some pointed words in some of these depositions that I read, but none of them that were sort of like, to be honest with you, hilarious to bring up on the podcast.
Sure.
But that noteworthy. But no, once EA tried to get out by settling and get rid of their liability, the NCAA suing them not in the California court where Ed O'Bannon was, but going to Georgia to do it, where they thought it'd be more friendly for them. That turned into, we're just never going to have a relationship anymore. That's fine.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of wild, right?
Did they do the lawsuit in Georgia because they found a jurisdiction that they thought would be more friendly to them?
Yes. So what you're going to find out in a few moments is that the judge who basically ruled in favor of Ed O'Bannon also gets to hear another case.
Oh, go on.
So, in 2016, claims were made and validated for the settlement cash. Would you like to take a guess at the number of valid claims from the Ed O'Bannon case? The number of former players that actually submitted a claim and got validated to get paid out. This is just the Ed O'Bannon case. It's the big case, obviously.
Yeah. I'm going to say that it was a lot, but not like the crazy amount that were actually eligible. I'll say we're around 240.
24,819.
Well, I got the 2 and the 4.
you did. They were discussing at the time it could be as many as 100,000 former players.
Right.
Because we're essentially what they were talking about is a time period from like the early 90s to the
well, I guess so. Do you have a year that they specify? Because if you're going back from,
I think
Bill
it was
Walsh
91 was the beginning year, but I'd have to go back and
look. That's sort of what I wondered, because if you go back with Bill Walsh college football, that's in 92, but I don't remember those players even being like specified by number, which is why I wonder where exactly. That's right. No, that's why I wonder, like, where do they say this begins? But
yeah, it's in there. That's just not the one I have remembered off the top of my head. In April of 2020, this is where things start to change. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Let's go back. So March 2016, right, is when the settlements were made. Yep. O'Bannon, NCAA appeals to the Supreme Court. October 2016, Supreme Court says no, we're not hearing it.
Yep.
And then 2019, that's when the former West Virginia running back Sean Alston decided to sue the NCAA and not the Power 5 conferences, all of the conferences, for capping the amount of money players could get. So what happened with the O'Bannon thing was that you could get money up to the cost of attendance. Right. Including, I think, up to $5,000, like on top of the cost of attendance, or was supposed to be like get
your like cost of living payment as well.
Right. Well, what turned out is Sean Alston said, "Why are you capping this at all?"
Yeah.
So that ends up going to all of the various court systems. That happened in 2019. While this is going on, April 2020, the NCAA Board of Governors decided to support rule changes for NIL. How about that, huh? Just a couple months before that, the CLC decides that they're going to send game proposal information to the institutions for the football game.
Okay.
In February of 2021, EA Sports tweets, "For those who never stop believing."
Mm-hmm.
One of the most retweeted tweets I've ever tweeted that I retweeted.
Sure.
February 22nd, 2021, Notre Dame opts out of the game.
They did the same thing on Saturday.
That's right. February 25th, Northwestern opts out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
February
they also did that on Saturday.
February 26th. Oh, no. Tulane opts out of the game.
I don't know what they did on Saturday.
Yeah, I don't know what their score was either.
Although I did wear a Tulane t-shirt on Saturday.
Oh, so that I don't know what that means. So March 3rd, 2021, our friend Matt Brown confirms that there are 8 teams that are officially in, and we start getting our reporting going for this podcast. At least the idea started to generate for this podcast. And Demetri, June 21st, 2021, the Supreme Court rules
led by noted girls middle school basketball coach Brett Kavanaugh.
Brett Kavanaugh said, and I quote, "NCAA lost 9-0 in the appeal of the Sean Alston case, which means that the NCAA could not cap any longer the amount of revenue benefits that student athletes could get, and ushered us into a new era of NIL and Demetri to the return of our beloved video game."
What I love in this story is we went as far back as 2003. For 20 years, rather than come up, for 20 years, name, image, and likeness payments have been bandied about for college athletes. And rather than ever devoting time to coming up with a coherent policy, the NCAA remained dedicated to pissing and moaning about not wanting to do it, rather than let's protect ourselves for when in our member institutions for when this inevitably becomes a reality.
My favorite thing on top of that you're talking about is that shouldn't your immediate thought be, all right, let's cover our ass, as opposed to let's put our head in the sand?
Yes, absolutely.
So like it should have gone into, okay, let's start forward thinking. We're kind of effed here, but we want to nip this in the bud now. Instead, now we're into a wild, wild goose chase of figuring out all of this legal stuff. And the law found it all out. All the emails got found out. You can't write some of the stuff that they wrote down in an email.
Listen,
including this is a disaster heading toward a catastrophe.
Far be it from me to give off the impression that anything Mark Emmert did was remotely better than anything else Mark Emmert did. Sure. But at the end of the day, in the 11th hour before NIL becomes legal, still begging Congress to bail him out might be his single worst moment as head of the NCAA.
Ooh.
I mean, that is...
maybe.
Like, what I mean is not so much like the most damaging thing he did, but that is the picture of incompetence.
Yeah. But like, if you go back and sort of, read some of this, and I alluded to some of it in the research before, is that the NCAA at one point back in 2007, thought that they were going to get some kind of NIL thing done.
Right.
And it would take a year and a half to be able to get done, but it never happened. So like the potential NCAA legislation never happened. And now Tommy Tuberville's having to seek Congress after NIL money.
It all comes back to Tommy Tuberville.
It always has, and it always will, Demetri.
2007, the last time he beat Nick Saban. And then he turned his attention to solving this crisis.
I would love to think that was true.
Even during the time he was coaching, I guess he still had 2 years at Auburn at that point. So even during the time he's coaching Auburn, during the time he's coaching Texas Tech, during the time he's coaching Cincinnati, running for Senate, the whole time, it is just a means to an end of being the one to solve NIL.
All he ever wanted anybody to do was to get a job. That's all they wanted to do. Can you believe a coach said that on the way out of a stadium?
I mean, that coach, yeah.
I can't. It's what as corporate as coaches have become.
Yeah,
there are the outliers that like the Dana Holgersons of the world. Like there are guys, the Sam Pittmans, that you just are like, yeah, we're still kind of good old boys. Like we're still kind of just dudes.
To your point about how corporate culture, how corporate coaches have become. In 2022, we had a sitting college football coach tweet confirmed when someone posted a picture of him and the words, "A bad night to be a Red Bull and vodka."
God bless Dana. Every single piece of him.
I believe so it was the Shutdown Full Cast folks, but they were filling in on the Dan Patrick show. This was a couple weeks ago that reminded the audience that at one point Dana Holgerson said, and I quote, "No one is happy when I am married." And it's stories like that make it so important to me that we have a story mode in the next game.
Oh man. All right. That's going to do it for us. Thank you guys so much for listening here, how we lost the NCAA video game and how technically we brought it back. Like we got it back through all of the legal process, but it was all because the NCAA said, what if we just give another piece of paper for him to sign?
Isn't it crazy that 17 years passed between when those first emails were exchanged and reintroducing the video game? And yet it was all tied together. This was one 17-year action.
It's kind of a weird, like, the sun's getting closer. Yeah, slowly,
that's right.
Slowly. But you can see it happening, right? Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's like when scientists say that, the world will be uninhabitable by 2040, and you're like, I'll be dead by then. And then you realize, oh no, I won't. That's going to be a problem.
I mean, I will be now that I've ignored all of this for so
long.
Right.
That's right. Will they still be making the video game?
That's the only concern at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. That's going to do it for us. Like, subscribe, share, do all that stuff. Thank you so much.
Review. That is very important. I was looking at us on a couple of different platforms, and we have a lot of ratings. We don't have a lot of reviews. Tell the people.
Yes. Scream it to the mountains. And from the mountains. To the mountains, they're not going to be able to do much. But from the mountains would probably help. Demetri, until we come back for next week's episode, why don't you say something nice to the good people?
Save and sim to next week, everybody.